I'm going to call the select board meeting to order for Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Is anyone here for public comment?
Madam Chair, one thing I just want to get into public comment, because I failed to get it on the agenda, but it's just more of a reminder. So a couple meetings ago, we voted to, strategy with union negotiations was, once they were started, we were gonna initiate, put together a schedule of meetings out like 6 months, 8 months, however long. So I just want to remind the board and town administrator that I believe the police department did send a letter indicating their intent to begin contract negotiations. So I just would like, if we could get a tentative schedule out to that union within the next month or so, just so we can have something on the books and dates. And one of the things we're going to try to do is have all the union meetings the week before our select board meeting. So if there's questions that need to be answered by the board that week, they can get answered directly the next week. So just a reminder. Thank you.
Is anyone else here for public comment? Okay. Review of minutes, August 7th, 2024.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 7th, 2024.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
3-1. Okay, next we have a class 2 motor vehicle license modification. Requesting change the premises, Main Street Automotive is requesting to change the premises of their class 2 dealer license from 676-678 Main Street to 676 Main Street in Clinton. Yeah, do you want to just give us a overview of the change?
Bob Bales. Basically, what we did was we leased 678 Main Street and increased the license 5 years ago. We're turning back the lease. So we'd like to reduce the license to 5 and have it strictly be 676 Main Street.
Okay. Have any questions?
Madam Chair, could you
Yeah.
just state your address as well for your introduction, your name and address?
Okay, Robert Bayless, and I live in Fitchburg, Mass, and I own Main Street Automotive, which is at 676 Main Street,
And your address in Fitchburg?
37 Acorn Ave in Fitchburg.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Okay. It's the pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair, I'll make a
Yeah.
motion that we approve the class 2 motor vehicle license modification for Main Street Automotive, the change of address from 676 to 678 Main Street to 676 Main Street.
I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're all set, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the Clinton High School Gale Spirit fundraiser, Jody Popecki. Can you come up? Can you state your name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Jody Popecki, 20 Schley Street, Clinton, Massachusetts.
Great. Want to tell us a little bit about why you're here tonight?
Sure. I am currently the boys varsity team mom. I was approached about fundraising opportunities. We were given a great idea of doing a community-wide spirit of doing the Clinton C logo on private driveways. And some of the boys on the team said, how cool would that be in the center of town to see these logos on the sidewalk and stuff like that? And I said, I'm not sure that's a possibility, but you'll always get a no if you never ask. So I'm happy to start the conversation. So I've had the opportunity in the last week or so to talk to many people here in town, not only in town hall, but also outside of town hall about opportunities to include businesses in supporting the athletics. I am learning quite quickly that there are a lot of moving parts to making a decision like this, especially when you've spent a lot of money on brand new sidewalks. So I know that some of the questions will be, what kind of spray paint are you using? How long would it take? What would our sidewalks look like? I don't have the answers to that now. So I feel like this is a possibility. This is not a this year fundraiser opportunity, but a next year one. But I did want to still come and thank you for the time and opportunity to discuss, and also open up the conversation for possibilities of ideas, not necessarily answers now, but ideas on how we can involve the business part of the community in helping to support Clinton athletics. I've also learned that there's a marketing committee at the school. So there has to be a specific C, it has to be in a certain font, the colors have to be the same. And I know the marketing committee is working very hard to try to collectively start being uniform in how Clinton athletics presents itself and its logo. So we have gotten permission from the AD to use the logo. The marketing committee has met and they have also approved as well. I know the athletic director is reaching out to the marketing committee to get me the font, hopefully, or at least the name of the font, so that we can be consistent in our logo that we do use. And so that's where I am at this point. I know I don't have all the answers to the questions that you would have, but just looking to be thankful to have this opportunity to speak with all of you and to see how moving forward we can continue to work and support the athletics. And luckily the boosters as well. I've been working with them to help support in this fundraising opportunity as well.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
um, Until the artwork on the sidewalks is ironed out. Maybe approaching businesses about using some of their window space in the meantime. I know that there was discussions about other communities that have kind of dressed up the storefronts on maybe vacant property, but with as supportive as the local business community is, that might be something that gives you an alternative to the sidewalks for at least for the time being until that goes through the process.
That's a great idea. We just moved here to Clinton. My husband's a longtime Clinton resident. He grew up here. He's a high school history teacher here as well. His family's still in the area. So he's been around here in Clinton for a long time. I personally, we just moved here in February, so I'm getting to learn everything. But maybe, again, not looking for an immediate answer right now, but maybe there's other opportunities for banners highlighting the seniors going down High Street, or flags with Clinton Gales, things alternating the Gales colors, things like that. I don't know if there's any opportunity from a town perspective to utilize flagpoles or banners or things like that, but I would definitely love to have the conversation to see if that is an opportunity. Obviously, that wouldn't be a this year fundraiser. There'd be a lot of work and time and effort that would go into preparing something like that. That would definitely be a next year fundraiser. But if you have any other ideas or opportunities, such as flags, banners, or that is a great suggestion for dressing up the storefronts, I'd love to have the conversation to be able to help support the team. My son currently is a junior playing on the varsity soccer team.
Yeah, and I'll mention that we had the opportunity to discuss this on Friday, and I did show some, I think, resistance to putting it on the sidewalks, given some of the history there. Talked maybe about putting it in a couple, maybe one in Central Park to see how it goes, but there were some, questions that I had in terms of like, what kind of paint is it? How does it remove? How long does it last? How does it wear? So I think I had expressed some like hesitation for it,
Right.
although I think we all want to support the team and the athletics as a general whole. That was kind of, I think, the sentiment to me. I think it was a lot more palatable with the,
Absolutely.
you had that suggestion as well in terms of like the storefront. But I mean, I think I was even at work in the snack shack on Saturday, and I was like, maybe testing it in front of the snack shack on the cement there might be a good idea. So I think that was kind of where we were on the topic.
Absolutely.
And I, did let Ms. Peck know like that the sidewalks were like hot topic and,
Understood. I'm quickly
Yeah,
learning as
yeah.
well, just moving here.
So,
But I'm also learning of different types of paints, and
Yeah.
I am starting to learn that there's chalk paint that would wash away after a
Yeah.
rain. So there might be some possibilities, but again, we can't control nature. So if we spray it all and it goes away the next day, that might be a challenge.
Yeah.
The boys had even talked about, I think I might have my streets wrong, I apologize, but High Street, like by the bank and the realty place, they're like, what if we did a big C on the four corners? And I was speaking with someone there, I'm like, that would look wicked cool, but then logistics would be, okay, that's a whole different type of paint. You'd have to close the street down. It would require a police detail, all of those things. So we are quickly learning, but I'm appreciating that the boys are having big, grand ideas. And hopefully learning that you have to make the effort to ask. The worst you can get is a no, but you'll always get a no if you never ask the question.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank you for being
know.
rational and thoughtful about this whole approach, because it's a breath of fresh air. Yeah, I have the same apprehension. And also, I don't know if we can work like this my concern was, what if my kids' cross-country team wanted to do something? And then all of a sudden, we've got everybody,
Right, we did talk.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
kind
I
of.
just wasn't sure if we could talk to the boosters overall of opportunities instead of going team by team, just to give everybody a fair shake. I wasn't, I guess I just don't know how they operate, but
Well,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, and I think you even mentioned, it was like, I think kind of the impetus was the soccer team, but hopefully like a lot of the fundraisers would just be kind of all purpose. I don't want to speak for the boosters or anything like that, but like I think they're kind of working it out, but I do appreciate like the dialogue of trying to figure out what needs to happen, because I think the months do go by fast.
we have
in
stanchions
terms
down,
of it.
and we have things that can serve that purpose as far as banners and things.
Yeah, right, exactly. So maybe start the conversation.
I think
that
that,
way.
you
But
know-
I think initially, I think if she's looking to do something, if the team's looking to do something for the fall,
I
then
thought windows too.
windows, I think.
I would think that that conversation would take place between,
Yeah,
the, whatever the team parents, the athletic director and the boosters. And then once that's vetted out on their side, then they could come to the select board or whatever
yeah.
whatever governing body it is, but I don't think that's something we would have to get.
No, no. The window signs too, I mean, I don't believe there's any like I mean, I know they're permanent signage permits, but I don't think there's any restriction to putting that type of like,
So if we did want to do some type of window decal, that is something we could approach the businesses on our own without additional approval, other than the business's approval to
Yeah.
do that. Okay.
Michael, is there any zoning concerns there as far as window dressing?
No, I think if it's on their storefront or their windows, it wouldn't be a problem. I even talked to Mr. Duffy even about, even if they extend something out from the
Yeah.
building, it probably wouldn't be an issue, but unless it's considered like a permanent sign, then it would need approval. But I think what they're talking about would be anything would have to work.
I do have an email out to Mr. Duffy. He was graciously, he replied and said, give me a call. I wasn't able to do so today, but he did open the door to give me the opportunity to call him and talk a little bit more about it as well. Again, I am still learning all of the processes, but my understanding right now is the teams are they've been doing their own individual fundraisers, and the boosters have been supporting them in the fundraising effort, like collecting the money, having, keeping the money safe for them, earmarking whatever's in the bank account for each specific team. So for me right now, my initial one was to try to help out the boys varsity soccer team. But I think moving forward, it maybe encompass the girls at the same time, or maybe fall sports. I'm not quite sure how that would work. And I know some teams are kind of already have the ball rolling and are very successful in their own team fundraising. Some already have funds going on. The boys varsity soccer team happens to be one that doesn't. So looking to help support them, but definitely willing to help other teams as well. Just thankful to have the conversation, and any ideas and suggestions are greatly appreciated. And of course, ideas getting approval that follow the right rules, regulations, and what needs to happen.
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
yeah.
I just have, so is the basic premise of it is you go to businesses, you ask them to donate money to the sport, and if you have like different, if they donate this much money, then you guys either paint a window or your original idea was to put something in front of the business's sidewalk. So it would be like, donate $100 and we're gonna paint a C, Clinton Gale C in your window. And that way people walking by know that that business supported Clinton athletics. Is that kind of the basic idea?
Basic idea, but right now it wasn't tiers. Again,
Yeah.
getting kind of late on board in this fundraising process. To have something be successful for this fall to
Yeah.
help support the team, it had to be pretty basic, simple, and kind of one-sided. So
Yeah.
right now there weren't different tiers or options.
Yeah.
But obviously, if we're talking about planning ahead for next year, there definitely could be different options and levels to help fundraise.
Yeah. Well, I don't waste all the kids' time if you're only getting like $10, right? You get that money. You get like 50, $100.
And-
Okay.
And in an ideal, in an ideal world, all of this approval would be done hopefully before the school year is over, so that it's something that can be successful in the summer in an ideal world. So the funds are already collected. So the team actually gets their gear during the season instead of after the season being over, in terms of the boys team anyways. So in an ideal world, we would do this and have it execute over the summer or right before school starts, so that the town has, Gale spirit all over the place as everybody is going back to school.
Great. I don't think there's anything for us to vote on per se, so, I certainly appreciate like kind of the beginning of the conversation, if in
Yeah.
fact it gets to a point where we do have to vote on something. Right now, they're based on like the, boundaries of the fundraiser. It's just between like you and residents on their private property and you and businesses in their storefront. So there's really nothing for us to vote on here. But we can certainly like kind of keep the conversation going through the, fall, winter, spring, so that you have your ducks in a row for anything that you might want to do, or just to come in and get a pulse of, or have this idea, or has this changed, or we have chalk that's gonna, run off at the next, like,
Right.
I guess more information.
Absolutely.
Like I said, my initial thought was like, how long is this gonna last? How do you get it off?
So no, those were
Yeah.
great questions.
But would certainly appreciate you coming in and,
I do have one question that I don't know if you guys can tell me. My understanding in people's private property is that if there's a sidewalk going
Oh.
across their property, does the logo have to be a certain distance away from that sidewalk? Do we have to be 3 feet in from the sidewalk? Even though they own the driveway and it is private property, is there anything we need to be concerned about on that regard?
yeah, remember, I think we were talking about how there is like an easement on when you don't have a sidewalk, like for trees and whatnot, but I don't know what the exact now.
I think if it's way,
It's in the-
I think
yeah.
it'd be fine. I think if it's just, there is an easement on the side of the road, as the chair indicated, that, would be public property, so it preferably, if it stays in their driveway. it should-
So as long as we're a few feet away from the public road, we're good to go. Okay.
Yeah, usually the sidewalk's the indicator, past that is private property. And then usually, like 3 or, step in a bit, but
So if there is a sidewalk going on that residence side, as long as we're a few feet in towards the private property, we are okay to do that.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy to have it in my driveway.
Excellent.
support the
Thank
team.
you. No, I appreciate it. I have definitely learned a lot. I appreciate your time in putting us on the agenda, and we look forward to continuing to work with the community to support all of the athletes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the Veterans Advisory Committee discussion. I guess I just wanted to bring this up again, just to kind of, I guess, provide some like clarity, either rediscuss or create a plan forward. The veterans officer came to us asking for some assistance with Memorial Day. Then we had a meeting where a Clinton citizen had come forward asking to speak about his experience with the veterans officer, and which you two met. And then Mr. Jakonski came forward and suggested that we create a Veterans Advisory Committee. I had put that on the agenda for the last meeting to get an update because we had voted on May 15th to explore that option and consider it. In my research, a lot of the towns that had a similar committee were either events oriented or, it's in towns of similar size, or had a kind of a district veterans office where there was like not that many office hours where we have full-time. They had maybe a 1 day a week or part-time. And the committee was set forth for the advisement of the town administrator to gather feedback because of the lack of full-time. And when I asked the veterans officer to come in and give an update, and we had kind of momentum moving forward with the beginning of a plan for Memorial Day. I know it's still 10 months out. Felt like that was an appropriate, I guess, step forward. But other people had disagreed with that. So I guess I'd like to just maybe open it up to like kind of what I guess if anyone has any concerns about that, the discussion point, or what would you like to be recognized, sir? Yeah, we're going to talk up here first, but if you'd like to sit down, that's fine. Okay. Kind of, I guess, the start of something. I was feeling like, let's walk before we run. To be frank, there were some other things that were kind of top of mind for us, and this was kind of something that was an idea suggested, and we voted into looking into it, but there's obviously like some confusion there, so I guess want to clarify confusion and like create a path forward, hopefully in a positive way for the residents of Clinton. Would anyone like to add to that or have any questions?
Only that I agree. I think we do need some clarity because I know people have some different opinions on how that May 15th meeting went down, but my recollection of it, and I think watching it again and reading the meeting minutes, it just seemed like we made a motion to endorse the creation of a Veterans Advisory Committee. There was no note in that motion or in that discussion to narrow the scope to only be Memorial Day. The intention of it was to be a committee that could meet and provide feedback and have discussions on any and all veterans issues. And so then I think that was the confusion 3 months later at a subsequent meeting. It seemed like there was a desire to narrow the focus of the committee to only be about Memorial Day. That was the sense of my confusion and a little bit of frustration at that meeting. So I think just my take, I think step one would be just to kind of clarify what is the board's stance? Do we still endorse a veterans committee to provide feedback for any and all issues, or is the select board's preference to narrow the scope of the committee to be only involved with Memorial Day? I think that would be a good place to start.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Going back and watching the video, it was definitely, I can see maybe the clarity was lacking, for lack of better words. What I will say is, looking at the transcript from that meeting, and I am going to bore us just going over the details of the discussion that took place that day, because it was, I don't think we have veered from the path. So when the discussion started out, I had made the recommendation that we move forward with doing an exploratory or an advisory committee with the town administrator. I said the veterans organization, which I misspoke there, where they could solicit input from the veterans organization on ideas for the makeup, the number of members, the groups that should be involved, with what the mission of the committee would be. And then once they come up with that recommendation, bring it back to the select board for approval. Mr. Devault said, yes, I think that's a great idea. Mr. Ward, who was far more articulate than I am, had brought up and said, I think what the chair is saying, is this something the board wants to pursue? Is this something we like? We've never done anything like this before. We would just like to get input. So the ideas from the board members, ideas from the veteran groups to see what issues that they would be involved in. One would be Memorial Day Parade. Certainly could be a committee that would be set up that could go help organize that issue. But what other issues that this committee would work on or could give us some direction on. So it wouldn't be that they wouldn't report to the veterans officer, the service officer wouldn't answer for that committee. I think it would just be kind of a committee, a veterans advisory committee that would meet, come up with suggestions or ideas that we could bring to myself, Mr. Ward, the veterans officer, the board on how we could advance the veteran issues in Clinton. When it came time for the motion, which was shortly thereafter, Mr. Default said, I asked for the motion. Mr. Default said, like an endorsement. And I said, well, whatever we would like to call it. So he had made the motion that we endorse and how we're going to call this, Mike, a veterans committee. That's it. Okay. I make a motion that the select board endorse the creation of a veterans committee for the purpose of feedback and communication with the veterans office in the town. So number one, nothing was created that day. It was simply an endorsement, which is different than saying I make a motion to create that committee. So nothing had been created at that time. So at our last meeting, when Mr. Bailey came forward with that suggestion, it was not a vote that would conflict what had transpired on May 15th. Okay, so we're still looking to point in the same direction, and I do agree it was confusing. But I think the intent in trying to decipher what was being said and what I was trying to communicate, articulating it rather poorly, that's still the direction. And that's what the board seemed to support at our last meeting. So I don't think anything has changed. It's just a matter of soliciting, exploring the opportunity, which was just discussed about what other communities have done, which is part of what that discussion was about. So I don't think it's trying to narrow it down into anything or trying to expand it into anything else. I think it's, this is all part of the exploratory process.
Mhm.
And Madam Chair, there's two things. We're either endorsing the formation of this committee only for Memorial Day, or we're endorsing the formation of this committee for any and all veterans issues. And first off, we don't have anybody in town can create any committee that they want to. It's just a question of, is the town going to be willing to meet with them and talk with them? So I don't even know what we have to gain, why we wouldn't endorse the formation of this committee to get feedback, because they seem pretty motivated that they want to create the committee. So the committee is going to get made regardless of what the select board thinks of it. I just think it would be a good gesture to the veterans in town if they knew that the select board was in support of working with them on forming this committee, and just to increase our communication. Because I think a lot of the frustration is just a lack of communication, expectations not being aligned or not being managed. I think communication solves a lot of those problems. And I just think it's in our best interest to, if this committee is going to be formed, regardless of whether we approve it or not, we don't really have any authority to approve it. I just think it makes sense for us to be involved in it and be there to listen to some of their concerns and be specific about, that's one of the things that anyone that's involved in public service, we field complaints all the time, but I think we have an obligation. You have to listen to the complaints and then see if there's merit to them. So the purpose of this committee could be just starting to, instead of like any vague complaints, just really specific. We have an issue with this, that, and the other thing. Whatever they are, list them out, have them be specific. Then we can look at how other towns handle this. We can look into what responsibilities are, what services we're providing. There's nothing I've seen that says that I've seen that Mr. Bailey hasn't been fulfilling his duties as veterans agent. Maybe some people may have different opinions, but I think that he's done a good job. But that doesn't mean that we still have an obligation to listen to people if they have concerns about the way that the town is servicing the veterans. So that doesn't mean that we act on everything that they complain about, but it does mean that we give them the time and the consideration of listening to them and then seeing what's feasible to accommodate their requests. And I really don't understand, and I haven't been able to understand why that is such a contentious thought, why that is such I don't know why this is like such a debated issue. It just seems like it should be, I don't know. I hope we can get some clarity today on I would like to. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think something you had just mentioned that I think is confusing is, I don't think there's been any discussion regarding any committees that the veterans want to create amongst themselves. No one, as far as I understand, we never voted on that, and I don't know why we would. If they want to form a committee amongst themselves, that 100%, like, whether we support it or not is irrelevant. What Mr. Bailey had mentioned was creating a committee that involved a member of the select board, the town administrator, the veteran service officer, and then a representative from the veterans, one of the veterans group or this veterans committee, which is what we were voting on. So if that's one thing that I think there's a disconnect on, is I think we're talking about two different things. I never did I indicate that I'm not in support of the veterans forming a committee amongst themselves to increase communication. We were strictly speaking from the point of the town of Clinton, the select board, the town of Clinton as in the government, the select board, town administrator, veteran service officer, and then potentially a member from the veterans groups. But I don't know where this is coming from that we're voting against the veterans forming a committee.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
you watch the meeting and you see the minutes, it even in the minutes, it specifically says to help with Memorial Day and other issues. It was the intent of this committee when we discussed it was that the idea that got into the water supply from May 15th until September 4th is that all of a sudden this committee is only going to focus on Memorial Day. That's the new thought. So I don't remember, there's no record, no one mentioned that on May 15th. It's not in the minutes, it's not in the meeting. I watched the meeting multiple times to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. It was a very loose motion and a very loose discussion because everything was just getting started. But I think the confusion and the frustration just comes in, 3 months later, we have a meeting about this and we're talking about it only being about Memorial Day. And when I mentioned that it should be about more than that, I think the tape from the meeting was pretty evident that the board just wasn't interested in that. I mean, at one point, it's almost like we had two options on the table and the board was like, we're going to go with the veterans agent plan about this being only for Memorial Day. And then that left me, well, like, what does that mean? These guys, they might have other things they want to talk about other than just Memorial Day. I think Memorial Day is a great thing to get them involved and we want to get people involved in that, but there might be other things. So I think that's, I don't know if like I'm getting painted as like making a mountain out of a molehill, but like I'm the one that I just don't understand why the idea for this committee all of a sudden became narrowed. into just that. And the only reason that I went to talk to the veterans, because we had the meeting on May 15th. It wasn't until like the middle or the end of July. I just gave a call down to VFW to see like how it's going. I mean, I do that on a lot of initiatives that we're doing just to see how the progress is going. And they said there really hasn't been any progress, which is fine. So I figured I'll just go down there and talk to them. And I told you, Madam Chair, I told you that I was going down there to talk to them. And after I got done talking to them, I told you that, I had a discussion with them. I can talk to you guys about what we talked about and what their thoughts were for the committee. So it's not like, I just don't want to paint the impression that I'm like meddling in town affairs. The only reason that I got involved and went down there to talk to them was because the information that I was getting was that just nothing had been done yet. And that's fine. I'm not saying that something should have been done. But what I am saying is like, if it's been like 2 or 3 months and nothing's been done, I don't see the harm with me going down and talking to the group and just seeing what I can do to help them form this committee.
Did you ask the same question to the other people who are forming the exploratory committee, or just go down to the veterans? And ask?
That was the starting point of it. So the first thing that we talked about was putting together a distribution list and getting people from the PAV and Legion and from the other groups involved. I just went to the VFW because you have to start somewhere. I could have just as easily went to the Legion or the PAV or somebody, but I went to them first. And that was one of the first things we discussed, is like to incorporate all the other groups in town and like have one or two people from the PAV, one or two people from the VFW, and form the committee that way. So that's as far as we got into it. We had one 20-minute conversation. Like, it wasn't really that in depth. I think we just, every time we do something, I try to inform the board on what we're doing. I don't want anyone to think I'm doing something behind the board's back. So I think it just gave us pause when, just to update on a simple meeting that I had with them and forming this committee, which I thought we were already in favor of. It just seemed like there was confusion at that meeting, and that it was like, no, that committee's not, it's not going to be about Memorial Day, or it's not going to be about everything. It's only going to be about Memorial Day. So I just think hopefully at this meeting, we can just get some clarity on what the board is willing to endorse and would be, because they can form the committee by themselves. We know that. So that's not up for debate. But what is up for debate is how we're going to integrate that committee into the town. Are we going to meet with them? Are we going to listen to them? Are we going to have, meetings once every like couple months or something? So that's where the endorsement from the select board and the communication from us back to them. That's why the endorsement, I think, is important, because it lets them know that like we're going to be willing to listen to them.
Go ahead if you want.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we just need to sharpen the point, because we never really explored the committee. So I don't know. I mean, my thoughts was that it was going to be an ad hoc thing that was brought together to address some perceived complaints, and to figure out how we could, I guess, improve communication, but it wasn't going to be like a board of directors for the Veterans Affairs.
No.
So, and what I've seen in other towns, which I think is a great idea, is more like a Chamber of Commerce model, where it's an advocacy group. Maybe all of the veterans groups get together and form something, and they, give us policy advice or do events, things like that, which again has nothing to do with us. That's a standalone thing. So again, I think the waters just got muddied a little bit. I'm not in favor of it. He doesn't need a board of directors. Like, that's not how the town works. So if we want to do an ad hoc thing, which I kind of, and again, we all admit that this was not fleshed out well. So if it's an ad hoc thing where we're, repairing some bridges, I'm fine with that. And I totally endorse them going off and I understand numbers aren't great for veterans organizations these days. So if they have to team up, I think that's a terrific idea. I didn't see a debate. I think I just saw a blank slate still, and
Yeah.
we haven't drawn on it. So,
And Madam Chair, just to be clear, at no point, at least from my perspective, either May 15th or any meetings I had with the VFW or any veterans, there was any talk of this committee being like an official, like appointed by the select board and anything that the veterans agent would like report to, that was not, if that was even thought of early on, that thought was, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, managing expectations. That's why I think it's important for some of us to be involved when these committees get formed, to like, to very early on say like, nope, that's really not the way it works. Like and even in the motion, the motion and the minutes and everything, it just said an advisory committee. So there's really nothing in this committee, or there's nothing in the forming of this committee that's going to have anything to do, the veterans agent, the veterans office is not going to report to anyone on this committee at all. It's purely for the sake of feedback and communication.
Well, I think that is, I guess, where we need to decide, because in my research of some of these veterans advisory boards, they are appointed by the select board. They are, there is, their open meeting laws, agendas, like, they function similar to any other board that we have here. So like, is that the path? I mean, you said yourself, like, we get feedback all the time. I mean, is this committee created to give feedback, which can be done either in like separate ad hoc meetings or via email or what? I guess it's like Memorial Day and other, like, I'm not entirely sure. And to the point of like a board overseeing that department, I think in the last meeting, that was part of my concern of just, someone, a group of people kind of directing a department that is not like how we're set up, that reports to the town administrator. So like, I guess this is maybe the beginning of the exploration of it. The original, I think, not the original need, but I think a need that was trying to be addressed in the spring was the fact that there aren't the committee for Memorial Day. Many of them have passed, and we need more people. And another concern, I guess, of mine is if we have a hard time getting volunteers for any board. Like, is there an appetite for, a lot of them were like, required them to be veterans that are residents of Clinton. Are there 5 people that would be committed to being on this board, given that we have like a difficulty getting volunteers? So there are some like kind of, I think, things to be determined. I mean, feedback is welcome whenever. So yeah.
So just for a point of clarification, to say that nothing had been done with this committee since the discussion in May is false, because there was research going into it. Okay, maybe that communication hadn't reached outwardly yet, but the assistant town administrator was involved in the research. So to continue to say, well, nothing's had been done that's inaccurate. And, to the point on the exploratory committee, the idea was for an opportunity to solicit feedback to determine what that mission or objective of that board was going to be. So yes, at the last meeting, there was discussion about it being for Memorial Day, but nothing had been finalized or decided. So in some opinion, maybe it wasn't moving fast enough, but it was moving forward. That's all.
Okay. Just to address a couple things that you mentioned, Madam Chair. So just one thing. Yeah, if there's advisory groups in other town that are directing the departments, then I would say that they're just not using the right language, because we don't advise the town administrator. We direct the town administrator. He reports to us.
Now the committee brings the veterans issues to the town administrator because they often don't have full-time staff.
Right, but my point being that the town is under no obligation other than the perception of the public. They're under no obligation to address any of the needs of this committee. We're only obligated, what I would like to see is that we at least give them an audience to listen to some of the needs of some of the things that they would like to see the town doing and just see if they're feasible or not. Some things might be, some things might not be. But I don't think there shouldn't be, one thing there shouldn't be any confusion on is I don't think that this committee was ever intended to have anyone from the town report to it. Just as an example so that you can kind of understand the model that this would be, there's a group in town called the Friends of Clinton Seniors. So it's just a group made up of volunteers and they provide feedback to the Council on Aging. So, they're under no obligation to listen to the suggestions of that group, but it's just another, it's just another group in town that has formed to try to increase communication. And I think we should, we're always talking about how we're having trouble getting volunteers. And I think there's some motivation to have a lot of involvement from volunteers with this group. So it's just my opinion. I just think we should be embracing the idea of this committee and just work with them. That's all.
So the Council on Aging, like the Friends of the Library, those are all like separate from the town. So are you suggesting that this be a council if they choose to meet on their own
Yeah.
and provide us with feedback
Yeah.
at certain points, either?
Yeah. I mean, and you can even check the tape from the last meeting. Like I even said in it, like my intention, and I told these guys, my intention is not to like stay. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but my intention was just to help get the committee started because people don't, it's not like I think it's good to have somebody from the town in these meetings when the committee's getting formed to manage expectations and to kind of share some experience that we've all gone through with like other committees to give them the best chance at success. So me helping out shouldn't be misconstrued as like the town being directly involved. That's just, all I was doing was offering assistance and my experience to help them get the committee up and running. And then it was my intention when the committee was self-sustainable that I would just peel off and it would run itself hopefully for many years to come.
I think some of the confusion is it seems like, the approach that was that you had endorsed in May was to create a committee consisting of at least Mr. Ward and Mr. Bailey to go explore these things. But then it sounds like in the other sense would be you're looking at this as almost being involved in like a grassroots creation of a veterans committees where you're gonna, the veterans groups get together, they create this committee and then somehow it becomes intertwined with the select board or the VSO's office. But there seems to be two different discussions going on about how this was supposed to be created. You endorsed the exploratory committee, so if there's any feedback, that's where it should go to. But then it sounds like now when you went down to the VFW, you're discussing having the committee form there and then somehow be that bridge to here. And I think that's the confusing part about this. We made it clear that's where the exploratory committee was. Any feedback on that committee would be directed to Mr. Ward and Mr. Bailey. And did you receive any feedback, whether from Mr. DeVault or anybody else at this point?
I was providing feedback at the meeting. That was the whole point. That's why I asked the chair to put it on the agenda. I told the chair that I was attending the meeting to talk to these guys about any progress on the committee. After the meeting was done, I told the chair I'd like to speak at the next select board meeting to update the board on how the discussion went. That's all.
Did you update Mr. Ward?
Why do I?
Because that was the committee you endorsed.
I updated the chair.
But you endorsed.
And I was gonna,
creation.
if Mike comes to our meetings, Matt, he would be here when I inform the board of my meeting, like what's gonna happen in like 5-6 days from when I meet with that veterans committee. Like I publicly put it on the agenda to inform the board of the meeting that I had with them. So I don't know where this, like, this angling of trying to make it seem like I was doing something like behind anybody's back, like.
I'm not insinuating that.
It sounds like, it sounds like.
I'm
you are.
just insinuating
And
that
just
there's
one
con-
more, just one more thing. Like, you guys keep slipping in these words like intertwined and directing. And again, for like the fourth time now, there's nothing about this committee that is going to have any authority over the town. It's only going to be for the purposes of communication and feedback. So I don't understand I really don't even understand why we're talking about this for 15 minutes right now. It seems like the most
You guys
harmless.
recognize me,
Not yet. We haven't
I'll
started.
give you something that can fix a lot of the confusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, I mean, I
Minutes
think
finished.
we're kind of going around in circles. I think people just watch the meeting, review the notes yourself and draw your own conclusion. And I don't think, we're just gonna keep talking about the same thing. I think it would be only fair to recognize the veterans that are here and just to listen what, their perspective is.
Okay. Sir, do you mind stating your name and your address
523 Clinton, Massachusetts,
and your address
address 10 Allen Street.
in Clinton? Okay, thank you.
Your home address, not your.
I'm not giving my home address, it's not relevant to that. My address, I'm the commander of the Veterans Service Organization in Clinton. My address as commander down there is 10 Allen Street.
But you're not a Clinton resident. Okay.
So that's why my address.
Well, it's a business, your business. Okay, I'm just trying to clarify, because we were talking about this committee consisting of Clinton residents. But
This is what I'm saying. Regardless if I'm a resident of Clinton, I'm still the commander of the Veterans
Of that-
Service Organization in your.
you're leading that organization.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first thing with some of the confusion, I want to talk about the advisory role. It's be more like when we find things that could be out of compliance or things that may be not seen. Prime example, you guys' current job description for the VSO says he is supposed to go to Bolton, Bolton, Holden, there's other municipalities. Obviously, those towns have been covered by the VSOs I know right now. So it's either A, you guys aren't aware of this lack or gap of that, where if you have a committee of us, veteran, organizations that know these things that come down the pipeline, can bring it to the attention to either my board or you guys, so you're in compliance. That's more of the advisory role that we speak of, because we're more attuned as veterans organizations of these things. This is more working with you people to make sure everybody comes out on top. That's the main goal, is to improve the communication. A lot of things change. The more that we can get together as a group, and as Ed said, to filter out the tomfoolery, the easier it is that we can come to you guys with the actual validated, solid things where the community, the community feels heard because they have members representing themselves on that committee. That's the main thing. And Ed's been crystal clear about that all the time. And now you guys want to say, oh, it's semantics, this and that. It really has not been semantics from day one. Almost every other town that's of any size, if they want to have the friends of whatever. And the best part why they do that, Fitchburg's a great example. They may be small, larger than y'all. But what they do is they raise funds. So if the VSO can't help that veteran, say they only need $300-400 for groceries for the month. Well, they have funds they're able, as this committee, to delegate out to any veteran who's honorably discharged. They can just come to the committee and say, yeah, here you go. Where us, we may not be able to, you don't meet our criteria. You may not meet the Legion, you may not meet the VSOs, but the committee can say, no, we got you. What do you need? So these are the things I'm talking about with this committee here. Overall, for everyone, to communication, everyone's on the same page and everyone's got a seat at the table and being heard unanimously, rather than people having, the animosity. We'd be at the table all together. There'd be minutes. There'd be no more of the misinterpretations, or I can see that. That's really what this is about. And the thing that really set us off was we're ready to start a committee for a dog park. And that set us off when you basically said the committee for the dog park is more important than veterans. Well, that was disgusting. It's on video.
Madam Chair, that's not true.
But we asked is what was stated in that video.
We asked for
amen
members.
to that.
We
In
did
the
not
same
say that
box.
the dog park was more, they're
Well,
two
it's-
different things. We did a lot of other things that.
Playing these games, the Veterans
We're not
Committee,
playing any
you're
games, sir.
ready to jump through hoops.
Oh, this is what I
Over the
mean.
dog
No.
park. That's what set a lot of us off.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
The
no,
dog park is not, unless you want to be on the dog park, I only got 3
Well,
people
so
I can use.
I'm speaking here. Did I interrupt you? Am I
But
recognized?
you're misstating.
Am I not?
You're misstating.
No, I'm not mistaken.
You said, we said that the dog park was.
Enough. Enough.
Am I not-
Enough. Please. Let's not conflate different issues here. What
I'm
is
trying to
your
explain.
ideal scenario here? What, in a perfect world, what is this committee about? Is it separate from the town and you just like people to meet periodically to talk about different issues? Or are you looking for the select board to appoint residents of Clinton to be on a committee?
That would be the end goal. The end goal
Okay,
would be.
Because
to
then
do
you
that.
wouldn't be on it.
Correct. That this has nothing to do with me.
It sounds
This
like it
has
does, though.
everything to do with veterans. That's all I care about is the advocacy of veterans in general. I don't care what it's about. That is the only reason I'm here and I'm doing what I do.
Okay.
Only reason, man.
Okay. So can
I'm
I-
very passionate about this, and this is where my VFW is. And veterans, I hear need help. So I, as a leader, I take the initiative to go make sure we can get the help, make sure it's all squared away. That's exactly what it is, and that's what you don't seem to understand. This has nothing to do with me. This is about the veterans and the committee of Clinton and the community of Clinton.
So do you have like a list of veterans issues that are not being addressed now?
Oh, of course.
Okay, that you could email us? Okay. I would say let's start there, because I
You know.
don't really feel like I have an understanding of like, and other, and issues.
Because they
So I
get
think
into
they need, like, a
they're
better-
larger, more complex issues that can't be glossed over. It's something that needs to be written down, cited, that there's codes, there's, chapter 115, that there's actual, I want to, it have to be written down. That's why I can't sit here and explain that.
Madam Chair, to ask them to list bullet point every single issue that they're ever going to want to discuss with
No,
the town.
I'm just
Well, that kind
it's
of,
just to get
and
an idea of what
I
we were
know, but
talking
and-
about.
and-
Like,
and
he's
again-
saying like compliance, like, what, is this an audit? Like what, I do not have an understanding. I apologize if that seems rude, but like, I don't have an understanding of like what these issues are in order to try and address the concerns, just saying like, hey, we just need better communication. Like, we can try and do that without a board committee.
well, hold on a second, but we're not even there yet.
Well, I can't, but that's going to be a
But-
personal.
I know, but like,
If
let's,
we go that route, that's going to the personnel
But-
board, not to y'all.
but let's,
That's the gravity that I don't accept this. I want to continue to escalate this. I'm trying to be good here.
listen,
This is something this committee could rectify a lot of the problems with the VSO even currently. That's why
So it's not veterans issues, it's an issue with the VSO.
it's veterans issues in general.
it's not. This is the problem here, is everyone is trying to make this about personalities, and it has nothing to do with people or personalities. It has to do with the town's services provided to the veterans. If the veterans want to form a committee to discuss the services that are provided by the town, they have every right to,
They
okay?
can, they don't need us here.
All right, then that's all this is.
Okay,
he-
so
but the
he
comment-
seems to think differently.
The comment
Well,
that was,
why?
the
What was he saying
comment
different?
that was just made was that it will be escalated to the personnel board. That doesn't have anything to do with the advisory committee we're talking about. There's obviously something there. VSO doesn't report to the personnel board. The VSO reports to the town
I understand
administrator.
that.
Right, but that,
What I'm saying though, is there's issues that intertwine that without advocating and pinpointing the issues, because I assume you guys don't want issues to be in open air, in open session. That's part of the reason why you get issues from me. That's why you get that. I've done nothing but the best I could, even when you haven't let me talk, to make sure I don't drop names and I don't point any fingers specifically at people, because that's never been what I've been here to do. This has been all about advocacy to make sure that everything is squared away. And I'm not the only one that have these concerns. I'm the only one that has the gall to come up here and continue to fight this. That's the only thing. Everyone else will be behind me. You know, like I said, the comment that was said before, and the thing that you tried to conflate, and somehow because I'm not from Clinton, yet I'm still the commander of a VFW in your town, is ridiculous. We will not continue to be treated like we're idiots or we don't understand how government or anything works. This is getting very concerning of your lack of candor and how you conduct yourselves as the select board. You're reading minutes saying, that's not what I meant. Too bad, that's what the minutes say. This is just getting out of control. We're asking to work with you guys, and every step we want to say, well, we're not sure how we want to do that. We're not asking for much.
I kind of agree with that because we're talking about just trying to form the committee. And at the last meeting, there was concern over just the formation of the committee and the fact that they want to discuss any and all issues. But now at this meeting, you're telling them, well, give me all the issues that you want to talk about right now. Like, I just don't think that that's very fair.
I don't even think that's what was requested. She just said if there are concerns, is this something that you could email?
Yeah, well, check the tape. The chair
That's
literally
great.
said, give me a list of all the issues that like you want to discuss. Like, that's just an unfair request. That's why the committee is like, I don't even know. This is insanity to me. I feel like you keep bringing up the same stuff that we already talked about. You keep, again, when you're talking at him, Madam Chair, you're talking about that this idea that they expect that this is going to be, that people in the town have to like report to them. You guys you keep saying this over and over again, and I've answered it, and I feel like he's answered it multiple times that this is just supposed to be an advisory committee, and that's what the motion on May 15th was for.
So do you collectively want to meet together and put together a proposal of how many people are going to be on it? What you want to, what's the mission?
That's exactly what I was trying to convey at our last meeting. Yes,
But
that's
then
what I
why
wanted to
didn't it
do.
involve
Yeah.
Mr. Ward and Mr. Bailey, who are on that committee?
I brought it to the select board meeting. At
That's
the
not the
next select
committee
board
yet.
meeting. What is
If there's a
the problem with
concern
that?
about the cable commission, you don't bring it to the select board, you go to the cable commission. You're not using the proper channels, and you're frustrated that things are getting confused. You're creating the
All right.
confusion.
Let's talk about
This
next
is
steps.
just insane. Well,
What do you
why-
think the next
this is
step
what let's clear this up right now. I'd like to make a motion for the select board to endorse the creation of a Veterans Advisory Committee to provide feedback to the town on any and all issues related to veteran services.
Wait a second.
That's exactly the last endorsement you made in May.
Which obviously fell on deaf ears. So let's make it again, and let's be clear this time. Still waiting for a second.
I mean, I'll second for discussion, but
Beautiful.
this isn't any more clear than last time.
Yeah.
How does this make it
It's
better?
not clarifying it.
Dude,
This is, I
how does it
can't
not make
give
it
this a
better?
word.
It's the same thing.
You guys this is crazy. Like, every committee that, like, you're saying we're not gonna be in favor of this committee because
We are in
they
favor.
won't-
We
They
did it
won't
in
tell
May.
us. I don't know what the hesitation
I
is.
guess I'm just trying to,
Get the committee together.
Yeah.
And find out how many people are gonna be on it.
No kidding.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to do last meeting, and then you guis said, no, this is only gonna be about Memorial Day.
okay, so
want to put
moving
eggs in the basket.
forward.
Too many eggs in the basket, exactly, thank you.
I don't know what that means.
Well, that was what Selectman Mary Rose said, that's how it started.
Okay,
the
I'm
whole
not
thing.
Mary Rose. I don't know.
She's by the same.
It doesn't matter
She's
if
not
you're
even
not Mary
here.
Rose, Julie. It's like you guys are not remembering things that were said at meetings.
Here, you want to copy the
It's
transcript?
said-
You keep referring to meeting minutes that don't accurately reflect the discussion that took place at the meeting.
Madam Chair, can we all agree that we're in favor of this moving
Yeah.
forward to at least see what they come up with as far as personnel and charge and things like that?
Yes.
I'd love to hear. I don't think that has changed at all.
We can set a date if that, do you
I
want to?
don't want to.
No, I do want to. I wanted to at the last meeting. So
Okay.
that's what doesn't change. So there's a motion, it's been seconded, we had discussion.
a motion, the same motion we made in May?
Yeah, that didn't take due to it not being
No.
clear enough. So
Okay.
is my motion not, what is wrong, what is not clear about this motion?
Okay,
Explain to me what's not clear about this motion. I even took the time to write it down in my handy dandy notebook, so that I wouldn't mess anything up, and made sure I could be as clear as possible.
I guess it feels redundant.
So can,
Yeah.
as part of the discussion, so to what you're proposing, can we have someone who's part of the exploratory committee that you endorsed back in May? Can we have that like part of a group? I don't understand why we would kind of silo that discussion. Like, why wouldn't you involve the exploratory committee that you endorsed?
I had every intention. I thought that
Okay.
I was working on the same thing that the town was working on.
Okay.
It was only at that next meeting when there was this separation made between a committee that's just for Memorial Day and what I was doing. I thought the whole time I was working on. And
Right, so,
apparently they did too. Like, it's
That's
not like
fine.
I'm not
But-
in for that. And so did the item for that matter. Like the item seemed to think that it was weird too, that we voted on this thing on May 15th and then we're like all of a sudden not in favor of it 3 months later.
so,
So I don't know how many people are misunderstanding.
wait, so will you work with the exploratory committee and do this? Have them?
Yes.
Okay.
I never said I wouldn't.
But you haven't so far.
I met with them once for 20 minutes.
Okay, so you are going to work with the exploratory committee, which is the town administrator, the veteran service agent, and whomever you deal with to propose something.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Still have to vote.
So can we,
I-
Ed, will
I
you
mean-
please, can we vote this down and then I'll make a motion that will be crystal clear, please?
Okay,
This is absolutely
is this
crazy.
the end of the discussion? All right, all those in favor of Ed's motion?
Hey, here we go again.
I would be upset. I'd be upset.
Okay. Yeah, sir, do you want to come up and speak? Because we can't hear you under the microphone. If you would like to speak, you come to the table, state your name and your address. Okay. Okay. All right. All those. I'm married to a veteran. I am supportive. I'm married to one.
Hey,
There's one that lives in my house.
Yeah, the last time you gave me a goddamn smirk.
Me?
guys,
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
please.
Yeah, so don't give me the
Just
satisfaction to get it past.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Well, I think we have to vote on this motion unless he rescinds it. So. All right.
Go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I make,
Three,
I'll
one.
make another, can I make a motion to
Just hold the bus. What was the count?
3-1?
3-1.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we define the exploratory veterans committee with Mr. Ward, Mr. Bailey, and solicit input from the veterans groups as well as other select board members about the creation of a veterans committee in the town of Clinton.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just explain that in a little more detail. Like what is the difference between what?
Because it's not an endorsement, Ed. It's not an endorsement.
Action.
This is the plan. You keep using the word endorsement. Great.
What does that mean?
It doesn't create anything. You're saying, yes, we're on board.
Endorsement is even less than create. We're not even saying, all that endorsement means is like, yes, generally we're okay with the idea, or we approve the idea of the veterans forming a committee to help increase communication. That
Well,
is
we
such a simple, benign statement. The fact that you guys are like parsing it and like ripping it apart and going over like every word, like it's the Declaration of Independence, is just, it's mind boggling to me.
Well,
That word.
to his point, endorse is vague. And we're looking for like a path forward and a plan, because obviously endorse was too vague and now we're here. So what is the plan forward?
Wasn't too vague for anyone except the other members of this board. Everybody else that I've talked to, every group I've met with, like I said, the article in the paper, it seemed plain as day. The only one that has confusion about this is the 4 other members of this board.
Okay.
So if you keep saying that, like, we're not being clear, or there's confusion, we don't know, it is such a simple, are you in favor of the veterans just forming a committee amongst themselves to provide feedback to the town?
Amongst themselves. It's not amongst themselves. It's with us.
It's.
If they can do whatever they want.
see, that's, can we ask him for a tiebreaker here? Because I'm hearing 2 different things.
Yeah, what you want and
You want
what
those
we're here.
different people.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
He did?
yeah.
Yes or no?
He had, even the first time we met,
You
yeah,
wanted
there
some
is,
people-
Oh,
there
right,
is a,
that could be done in the future, right? So that's not even on the table now, right? That would be best case scenario, but the goal is to start this because you gotta see first if we got to keep it, up and going. You get that going, and like I said, get the safeguard, the finances for everything else. But
and
we wouldn't jump to that until we get a good foundation of that actual committee there, then we'd be able to possibly do that.
What he does for this at all then?
was I not,
Yeah.
was I not clear when we met too? I said that's not on the table. We're not talking about that. So, which is another reason why, to my point, we should be helping this committee get formed to help them manage their expectations, so that ideas like that, we can communicate back and say, it's not gonna work that way right off the bat, so that these guys don't go for 3 months thinking that they're gonna get a committee formed that's gonna be appointed by the town and everything. Like, at least we're able to manage that expectation up front.
But
You
that's,
likened it to the senior center angels, which is
Totally
doesn't,
separate
totally
from the town.
separate.
Right,
Totally
and
separate
this
from
is
the
like,
senior
what
center.
I don't understand, like, this is
We don't have to talk about this at all.
just because,
Yeah.
that's why the word endorse.
but
I don't,
Yeah,
I
go with
can't,
that. No, it's, dude, go.
but
It's
no.
great.
you guys, I can't do this anymore. It's like you're telling me to, like, look at the sky and the
Ceiling.
blue. And
Ceiling.
you're like, 1 minute blue.
Okay.
I go absolutely nuts.
So
All right.
the purpose of that, just to clarify, that motion, what the purpose of that motion is to give the veterans group a seat at the table to discuss the, where this is going. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not, if your veterans group decides to create a committee amongst yourself, then yes, I agree with that endorsement. 100% in support of it. Not that you need that. But what I'm saying is, for the committee that was initially discussed, it was like, get people together, discuss the committee, what's the oversight gonna consist of, or what's the, the objective and the mission, and then that eventually a recommendation would come back to the select board for discussion and approval. That's all I'm saying. That's the point. So I'm not against the veterans groups working amongst themselves in any capacity. I'm just focusing on, like, okay, we're talking about a town-based committee. Let's get everybody at the table to discuss that, just to be crystal clear.
Does that sound all right, sir?
If you start.
Okay.
All right, then I guess, have a good night and,
It's about.
Okay. Well, we have to vote on that. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
All right. We,
I'm sorry.
Sir, we're having a meeting. I left you a message. We talked about this. We're having a meeting. Uh-huh. Left you a meeting, left you a message, explain. what
Recognize
we're doing.
you. You're not on the agenda.
I said I was gonna call you and I did. I called you. I was chair at the time. What the heck was
Are out of order, sir. This, you are not on the agenda and this is not public comment. I'm sorry. I did not get a message from you. Did you call?
No, no,
Sir,
the
this
answer.
is not gonna happen. We're not
do
talking
we
about
need it?
this.
Would you like me to contact?
The police? If he does not, I'm gonna ask you to leave please leave. Yes.
I left you a message saying this issue is, I'm answering you.
Now I'm talking.
Okay, then you're gonna have to leave. I told you,
Glad to leave.
Okay.
I'm not talking to you.
our discussion is over. Okay? It is, sir.
Found time for these people.
They're on the
They're on the
agenda.
agenda.
I left you a message saying this issue was settled 5 years ago. Okay? I apologize. It was because this board has no oversight on gun carrying permits. I do. Then tell us what it's about.
You
It's,
think you know.
you're gonna have to
We're
leave.
not, sir.
I've asked and you won't tell me. Okay? It's time to go.
How come you didn't return my phone call?
You didn't leave me a message.
A month ago. you
I-
missed call.
Yeah, and I apologize.
Okay, you say you're gonna call me back.
Yeah,
You never-
Sir,
you
you
came
need
last week.
to
we're
leave.
not debating this.
It's plain to see you're trying to hide something.
I'm not hiding anything, sir. Your gun license was revoked. That's a police chief's decision. Your matter of appeal goes through the courts, which I'm told you did. This board has nothing to do with this. I'm sorry someone didn't tell you that 5 years ago. That's it. If you have something else, contact the chair about getting on the agenda. I don't know what you. Yeah, I did. Sir, we're not doing this right now.
Sir, just stop engaging. Stop engaging. We'll wait until the police get here.
Right? That's what you're supposed to do.
I'll make a motion to, take a recess.
No.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Whenever you're.
We are going to resume our meeting. Recess is over.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we table the following items. The American Rescue Plan Act recommendations, town administrator evaluation process, fiscal year 2025 town goals, town administrator report. Under all the new business, scheduling of joint meetings of Select Board and Finance Committee, personnel recruiting hiring update, and the committee reports.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to administrative business. We have there's a request for a one-day beer and wine license in conjunction with the Clinton High School and Boosters basketball fundraiser at Clinton Town Hall on Saturday, November 3rd, 2024.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the request for one-day beer and wine license with the Clinton High School and Boosters basketball fundraiser at Town Hall on November 30th. I think you might have to step down to second this. Are you going to abstain or? You okay?
Second.
Gotcha.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? 3-0. Town Hall use for youth orchestra. The Worcester Youth Orchestra is requesting the use of the Clinton Town Hall Auditorium on Sunday, November 10th, 2024 to host a free concert for the community.
Make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. We have a letter of interest from Michelle Hutchins from Clinton, has submitted a letter of interest to serve on the Commission on Disabilities.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of interest and appoint Michelle Hutchin to the Commission of Disability.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just thanks for her thoughtful letter and her willingness to serve on this underutilized committee.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Just all right, community announcements or no?
Yeah.
Are there any community announcements or no? I think we're all set. Okay. The motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
this meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting ended. Adjourned.